What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my first impressions for High on Life 2. Upcoming comedy FPS, I guess you could call it, that launches in full tomorrow. Now, I'm able to bring you this first impressions video, of course, because I received a review key from Xbox on behalf of the developer Squanch Games. That said, I wasn't able to fully finish the game just yet, hence why this is a first impressions, of course. But there's still a fair few things to let people know ahead of tomorrow's full release, and I want to kick that off with some important stuff straight away. One, this is a pretty much direct sequel to that first game, which means it's difficult to talk about it without spoiling parts of the first one, though I am going to try to keep the spoilers to the second game here minimal, though I haven't gotten super far into it either way, so there is that. Before we dive into the specifics and the details and all that, there is one big thing I want to get into straight away, which is that the performance of this game has left a lot to be desired so far. I am roughly 10 hours into it, give or take, and the game has already crashed on me about a dozen times. I regularly get this camera issue that I think has something to do with the resolution, but I can't seem to fix it, and it pops up every time I use the game's in-game scanner. I've also gotten soft-locked and have been forced to reload a checkpoint a couple of times due to things like enemies spawning in walls and being unable to be killed. As a result, I've also been stuck on terrain, and in one instance I stopped being able to look around because the camera stopped working. And so, straight away as first impressions go, again, performance leaves a bit to be desired. And from what I understand, they are at least aware of some of this stuff because it was actually included in the one-pager information they send over with the review key, but it remains to be seen whether or not those things get fixed with a day one patch, etc., and I just wanted to be upfront with people, as if this continues across the entire playthrough, I'm going to be less than pleased with it. With that big thing out of the way, though, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of this. This is the kind of game where the humor is a big part of the point, really. In many ways, they have added a lot of different mechanics and things that I think try to diversify the fact that the original game was a very run-of-the-mill FPS, and the entire focus was the humor, really. And while they, again, have clearly tried to mix that up here and add some more gameplay elements to keep it interesting, the humor remains a giant part of it, and I feel like if you don't enjoy the humor, you're simply not going to enjoy this game, because mechanically it is not doing anything so interesting as to supersede the fact that the humor is the point. If that is of interest to you, however, you'll be happy to know that this time we're taking the fight to the galactic version of Big Pharma. As our character has not been sitting idle in between games, oh no, our bounty hunter has in fact continued bounty hunting and been enjoying the fame caused by the success of their initial outing in the original game. That game saw you taking down the G3 cartel, an alien cartel that had invaded and started using humans as a drug before we successfully defeated them, and that was deemed illegal. And yet, in the background of our success, our sister has run off and become a terrorist of some sort, only for her to eventually get a bounty posted on her. In going to save her life, you are put at odds with the rest of the bounty hunters and forced to kill them in order to save your sister, if you want to actually play the game, that is, resulting in you being kicked out of the bounty hunters and turned into the traitor that you have become. But to make matters all the more complicated, your sister wasn't just doing this to do it. You see, while the smoking of humans was made illegal after the first game, what has not changed is aliens trying to use humanity to their own ends by turning them into various pharmaceuticals, this time Humanzapro. Rather than the illegal route, other alien species are trying to make it legal for them to experiment on humans and turn them into a livestock species, putting a nice fun spin on what the G3 cartel was trying to do last game, leading to us having to fight through a bunch of absolute nonsense in order to save humanity. First, though, you're going to have character creation. Character creation is a state-of-the-art setup where you actually have to draw your own face using human facial feature crayons, a highly sophisticated process that does actually serve as your official portrait. Once you turn into an outlaw, you'll occasionally find wanted posters around the hubs that they set up, and these wanted posters do in fact show this right here as the wanted picture, which was really funny. And if you're wondering, yes, you can draw anything you want, and yes, people are going to draw the thing that always comes to mind when this shows up. Now, that's about as much as I want to say story-wise, as structurally the game is just broken up into you trying to take down targets in order to get to the bottom of everything I've just mentioned, but in the meantime, you'll actually also have access to large hub areas to explore and run around. Now, you may notice almost immediately that some of these are set up conspicuously, almost like a skate park, and that is because early on you're going to get access to a skateboard, which serves as some of the main new movement mechanics, complete with references to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and everything. In all seriousness though, this allows you to move significantly faster around the battlefield, while still keeping some of the basics of how combat here works identical, that is to say you having a shield, having to refresh it, using your gun's various special abilities to fight off various enemies, that kind of thing. However, one humorous thing straight away is that we are actually fighting the good guys this time, and they mean that quite literally, as in the band of enemies that we are fighting are known as the good guys. In terms of fighting them, however, in addition to that movement via the skateboard, we have a couple of different options for weapons. So, High on Life 2 sees us reusing the Gatlians from the first game, sentient weapons, or a sentient species that has evolved into weapons, perhaps might be the way to put it, and we're having a mix of new and old here. So, we'll start the game with some of the weapons we had at the end of the first game, and you'll also pick up some new ones along the way, such as Sheath or Travis, and all of these weapons have a basic function and then usually a secondary function that serves in combat if you want it to, but is also used for exploration, which is going to help you explore some of those hub areas where you can search around, find resources that will then let you buy various upgrades. Upgrades are pretty basic. You'll eventually get access to a shop that allows you to purchase upgrades either for the Gatlians or your suit, which increases health and your shield. And that's important because when you are turned into an outlaw, all your bounty hunter stuff gets revoked, and you have to reacquire some things. The nice thing about these new weapons is they also bring new personalities to the game as well, and as you would expect from a game like this, a lot of the best parts of it are things that are kind of to the side and just like little silly interactions you'll have, like the stuff going on with your mom and dad as an example, which I'm not going to get into here, but is honestly pretty funny. There was also a murder mystery section that I really enjoyed. I obviously don't want to get into the details of that too much as well thus far, but I will say that I really enjoyed how they handled that, and it definitely looks like they're trying to amp up the novelty of the individual missions here, which I think does a fair bit at least in making the game feel a little bit more diverse in its gameplay, even if it's still not exactly blowing your mind in terms of like revolutionary game mechanics or anything. And to that end, to sort of start just wrapping this up for the sake of the first impressions video, I would say that High on Life 2 is more or less what I expected, in the sense that it is once again a comedy shooter that is probably going to mean the most to the people who find it funny, and it definitely seems like they are at least attempting to heighten the actual gameplay side of things, which is where the first game was incredibly basic in comparison. And I'm hoping over the course of the rest of this game that they manage to stick the landing on all of that. But most importantly, I would say, really, at the moment at least, is that performance right now has been less than desirable, and I am hoping at least that the day one patch does something to fix that. And the nice thing about the full review coming later is that I'll be able to speak to any significant changes between this and whatever they drop for day one. But as for today, I think that's more or less going to do it. In terms of when you can expect that review, it probably won't be too long. I would imagine a few days, hopefully early next week, as this is going out on Thursday, so I'm hoping to have this done by like Monday, to be honest, as these types of games are never particularly long, so as long as nothing catches me off guard, it probably won't be all that bad. But in the meantime, I'd love to know what you think about this title down in the comment section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.